बरखुरदार, घर सजाना कोई मामूली बात नहीं है।
क्या ले घर के लिए क्या ले, क्या ये भी अच्छा है वो भी अच्छा है, पता नहीं ये यहाँ क्यों रखा है, इसको छोड़ छोटा बच्चा है।
भैया कुछ वैरायटी दिखाओ ना।
देखिए आगे पीछे जहाँ तक जाती नजरें, जो भी दिखता है उसे बैग में भर ले, ये भी वो भी हमको दिखाओ, शॉपिंग करना ना हमको सिखाओ, हमें पता हमें क्या चाहिए है बाबा, तुम बस आगे बात बढ़ाओ।
घर सजाने के लिए कुछ भी लें, पर घर खरीदने के लिए सिर्फ HDFC होम लोन्स।
गाना कैसा लगा?
बराबर है।
Abhijit, can you start? Oh.
हर किसी का होता है एक मंजिल और सपना, हर किसी का होता है एक मंजिल और सपना, फैमिली नहीं फिट होगी तो कैसे होगा फन,
अरे someone wants a नीम का पेट for solid दंत मंजन।
Such a color white green,
हेलो,
this is my agenda।
अपना घर होता है हर किसी का सपना, और इस सपने को पूरा करे SBI होम लोन्स।
The year was 1960. The construction and architecture industries were in for a pleasant surprise. The first Indian company to start manufacturing cement paint was set up. With the goal to be the most distinguished player in the market, we began our journey. By 1972, we also started to manufacture exterior and interior paints. And in 2014, we expanded by setting up a centralized plant at GIDC Vadodara, Gujarat, an ultra-modern plant with a production capacity of a whopping 12,000 metric tons per annum. We produce a wide range of exterior-interior paints and textures. We provide complete paint solutions for architectural coatings. We cater to a very niche clientele. We believe in precision and getting it right in a way that's good for everyone, including the planet. We believe in delivering green and eco-friendly products. They meet the green specs, have a low VOC value, and meet stringent global standards. Over the years, these high-quality paints gained popularity across the globe. And soon enough, we were awarded export awards from CapExil. All our products are produced with the latest state-of-the-art technology. And best quality of raw materials, and are backed with performance warranties. Needless to say, countless testimonials instill goodwill into our paints. Leading architects, consultants and government organizations not just recommend but insist on our paints. We have bagged awards from PwC and EPC as leading MSME paint manufacturers serving the construction industry. Godavari Paints has ranked in the top 10 MSMEs in the paint industry. But we see our achievements in the countless landmark projects that are protected by our paints through all seasons for decades. And we are experts in the execution of mega townships. making Godavari Paints Private Limited an ISO 9001 certified company. Today, as we celebrate 60 years, we look forward to the coming 60.
Good morning, everyone, and a warm welcome to the second edition of the Knowledge Session, where we have industry stalwarts giving their insights of their success stories. Last week, we had a wonderful session with Mr. Sanjay Dutt, who took us through his journey, which was very inspiring and motivating. Today, we have yet another such inspirational and motivational talk by the industry leader, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, sir. And to take us through his journey, we have Mr. Shishir Baijal from the chairman and MD of Knight Frank. Before going ahead, I would ask Rajan Bandalkar, sir, Vice Chairman, and Mr. Ashok Monani, President, NAREDCO Maharashtra, to throw some light on this.
Good morning, everybody, and good morning, Shishir sir. I know you have got a tough job because whenever Niranjan is there, everybody wants to listen to Niranjan sir only. So making this session more interesting, more educative, and more informative. It's a big challenge for you. And good morning and welcome Tara ma'am also. And Niranjan sir, as usual, we know कि आप पूछ रहे थे कि सूट पहनना चाहिए कि नहीं पहनना चाहिए सर सैटरडे वी ऑलवेज सी यू इन टी शर्ट एंड अ जैकेट सो सैटरडेज यू कैन टेक लिटिल बिट extra liberty and Niranjan sir matlab I know I will tell you all of you I will tell you when I met Niranjan sir first if I'm not mistaken in the year 1998 when I saw him a tall 6 foot plus pink guy coming with a red tie white shirt into a corporation and sir was visiting one of officers cabin the fellow came the doorman opened the door and gave it to sir walked in and then after 10-15 minutes sir walked out and the person the doorman the peon he went to leave sir up to the lift. So I was not knowing Niranjan sir by then, unfortunately. So I asked him, "कौन होते?" He was telling, "Sir, तुम्हाला नाही माहिती? हिरानंदानी साहेब आहेत, हिरानंदानी साहेब." So what I am telling is that it is not that Baba municipal commissioner or IAS or minister or chief minister or prime minister. Sir has equation with even the smallest peon also of any organization. So that's the basic quality which I learned from Niranjan sir because sir, I don't know whether I told you or not. I was behaving like a, pardon me for saying this, everybody, it is not for any community, typical Maharashtrian mentality is that modern पण वाकणार नाही. So I learned this quality from you, ki be down to earth and be humble to each and everyone. So there are so many young entrepreneurs, plus stalwarts are there. So it's always a learning for each and everyone. And whenever I meet Niranjan sir, every time I learn something from sir. In NAREDCO, I learn how to delegate. So today also, yeah, of course, Tara ma'am, lot of responsibility lies on your shoulder to bring up the women's wing. The way Kamlesh told that it should not be a CSR wing. I know that was your first comment. And the most important condition that you want to be equal, that you don't think that women are anywhere less. And we also know that when people like you and the team which you are selecting, you are going to give us a run for our life because we will have to be much more ahead of you because we are 2 decades senior to you. So ultimately, it's going to be a win-win situation for NAREDCO because my is under the umbrella of NAREDCO only.
Rajan, can I just say one thing?
Yeah,
a
ma'am.
time like
Who can stop you?
there is only one word, it's an African word that comes to my mind when something like this happens. It's called Ubuntu. Ubuntu is I am because of you.
No, we are all because of Niranjan sir, to be very honest, because Niranjan sir has taken NAREDCO to such heights which nobody can imagine or nobody can envisage. Yeah, of course.
Sorry, I didn't mean you. I'm talking I am because of you as in the general world.
NAREDCO.
NAREDCO, the general world.
Yeah. No, because when we started 5 years back, nobody imagined that NAREDCO would be at such a level. And thanks to people like Shishir Baijal and many more, because whenever we went to all of these people, you name it, Sanjay Dutt, Shishir Baijal, Anuj Puri, because they are not there on this call, KPMG, PwC, all the people, they opened the door. मतलब उन्होंने तो दरवाजे को कड़ी लॉक लगा के रखा ही नहीं था कि बोला कि you push the door and come in. So that was the biggest advantage. And even if I'm not thanking Devendra Fadnavis, then I am missing something, because he is the one person who has supported out of the way and he has given us a green channel entry each and every time. And at present, our President Ashok Punwani is also doing a great job, because these are knowledge series and webinars are his brainchild. Thank you, Ashok sir, and welcome to you, sir. Over to you.
So thank you, Rajan. I mean, you spoken. I mean, from your heart about Niranjan sir. But I like to add, I like the, the 200 odd audience who's there with us today. I like to tell you that this man is, made of something, some material which, I mean, we all use steel in our construction industry, but this man is made of more than steel. I have known Niranjan sir, Rajan, from the year 94, where he was the chief guest in one of the associations of Kandivali, Estate Association of Kandivali, who invited him as the chief guest. And I was fortunate enough to be part of that event also. Niranjan sir always believes that Mukesh Ambani is his mentor, but he is a mentor for millions of people,
Ashok.
Like, I mean, people who have, started their career, small developers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
You are audible.
Yeah. Okay. So he has been a mentor for so many, developers like us. He's held our hand right throughout. I know when I was doing a project. Yeah, so Rajan, when I was doing a project in Powai, and that is the time when he is the king of Powai. Everybody knows that, but he is the one who supported me whenever I needed his help. He was there. I can also tell you one thing, friends, is about him is that he is more childlike. I mean, I've seen him dancing with youngsters. I've seen him running a marathon. I've seen him, paragliding. I know so much about his learning. He's learning from his wife, Kamal Bhavi. He's learning from his son, Darshan. He's learning from everybody around him. I know one more thing is that it learns that you to hear your plethora of it so that each one of us can become much better. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your inspirational words and something insight which we were not aware 100% about Niranjan sir. So Rajan sir and Ashok sir, thank you for that this thing. About Niranjan sir, well, everybody knows much in detail, but let me just run through you quickly on this. Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani sir is a co-founder and managing director for Hiranandani.
Vishal, no need for introduction.
Okay, sir. Sir, I'll just
let's start.
Okay, sir. Sir, let me just quickly.
Niranjan word is only enough.
I apologize that, and I'm sorry for that. I'll just quickly brief you on the Mr. Shishir Baijal's profile. He's the chairman and managing director for Knight Frank. He's been taking over since 4 decades of experience in these industries, and he's currently leading a team of over 1,400 people, who is like spread across 8 cities and 50 locations in India. He is like taking a real estate legacy ahead with the managing partner. He was the managing partner for at Everstone Capital Advisor Private Limited, and he is he has so much of knowledge and so much of insight of this industry. So let us now hear from Mr. Shishir Baijal and Niranjan sir. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Rajan Bhai, Ashok Bhai, and Vishal for the fabulous introduction. And of course, it's a great honor and privilege today to interact with Niranjan Bhai. And I'm really looking forward for the next hour or so. Welcome everyone, and especially the NAREDCO Next Gen. I think it's a great pleasure to interact with all of you. For me today also, it's a great honor to interact with a person who is a legend in his own right. A person with a great vision and acute sense of the future. Every time I have met Niranjan Bhai, there's always been something to learn from him. Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani is perhaps synonymous with Indian real estate and its growth story. His contribution to the sector ranges from introducing new forms of development to creating perhaps one of the most professional and transparent organization in the sector here. I've had many interactions with him, both on a professional and a personal level, and each interaction has given me a new perspective. He has been an innovator, a visionary, a master entrepreneur, and a great source of inspiration for many in the realm of real estate. I completely agree with one of the internal sayings in the Hiranandani group that whilst people create histories, Dr. Hiranandani creates geographies. Today, my role, as Rajan Bhai said, is tough. I've been entrusted with the job of bringing out pearls of wisdom from Dr. Hiranandani. My efforts would be to understand how Niranjan Bhai thinks so that all of you, our audience, can feel inspired and learn from this journey and this man. Whilst much has been said and written about Niranjan Bhai, I would like to ask Dr. Hiranandani questions that will allow us a peek into his personality and his thinking. Welcome, Dr. Niranjan Hiranandani, and a pleasure.
Thank you very much, Shishir, for this introduction, and to all the love and affection you and all the others have given me this morning. I'm quite overwhelmed of it. I hope I can share my experiences of what I have gone through the interaction that we are going to have today. Over to you.
Thanks, Niranjan. Just so that we set the context and set the tone, if I can say. Niranjan Bhai, I think yours is a very different story. I mean, your background, if you look at it, I mean, you're starting from your father was a doctor, from a non-real estate background, a professional background. I think the audience would love to know if you can take us through the journey from there to today, India's most respected real estate developer, leader of the organization, which all of us look up to. If you could just share some part of that initial part of that journey, and what are the learnings that you've had through that period?
As you said correctly, Shishir Bhai, that I came from a medical family. My father was a doctor. My elder brother was a doctor. My sister-in-law was a doctor. Nobody from my families, both sides of the family, were in business. So for me, it was a leap in the dark. I took education in BCom. Simply because I didn't want to become a doctor, because I thought it was very hard work, which my father, my elder brother was doing. So in order to slip away from the hard work which he was doing, I thought he did. I was not cut up for arts. So I think I took into commerce by default. And when I finished my BCom, I was persuaded by my professional father and his colleague friend, Mr. Nani Palkhiwala, to do my chartered accountancy, because he said that if tomorrow you fail in business, you should have a fallback position. And after doing CA, I did, along with the starting of my business, teach in the Institute of Chartered Accountants for 2 years for the final students. And so education and teaching became a part of my life right from day one. So that was even before the real estate. And we started textiles, we started real estate in a very, very small way. I put up a factory in Charkop, Kandivali. And of course, both the businesses were failing. Because both the businesses were failing, I had to sell one of those. I didn't know which one to sell. And it so happened that the union of my factory, Powerloom factory, gave me a notice to hike the wages by 100%, because, you know, the arbitrage between textile mills regularly and the Powerloom sector. I didn't know which one to decide to quit. This letter, which came from the union, I thought was God sent, that somebody was deciding for me. So I sold off my textile units, jumped into real estate, and then, of course, didn't look back. Too petrified not to make successes, because everybody in my family was a professional success. So my aspiration was, whatever I take, now that I have failed, I should not fail in future. So I worked very hard in order to see that I should be successful, simply because other people were successful, so I should become successful. And we started in a very, very small way. And over a period of time, real estate became a part of my upbringing and whatnot. There were two aspects of me which always stood out. One, the reputation which my father enjoyed. As a doctor, as a benefactor, he 70% of his operative work in his life was free, and he was still a relatively richer doctor as compared to every other doctor. So I realized that even when you give things away, you really don't lose, because you'll always have something more because you've given a lot away. And that stood in my mind all the time, right from day one. So one was to benchmark and say that I get credibility. There's one story which I want to share with you, which was in the early days of my life. I had, I think that time we started the Maharashtra Chamber of Housing Industry, and I took an appointment from a minister in the government of Maharashtra. And when I took the meeting, after great difficulty, of course, in those days, not like how Rajan manages to get today, but those days when we got the meeting, then finally did. But you know what? The minister told the secretary, please don't write the name of Niranjan Hiranandani over there in the diary. Just say appointment given. Why? Because I'm a builder. And so, you know, he didn't want, at that time, it was equated to Haji Mastan and Yusuf Patel were the top builders of Mumbai in terms of name and fame. And this, and I realized that it was not only that the builders themselves had a bad name, but the community of builders had a bad name. So with this recognition, one had to work towards not only making a credible position for oneself, but also for the industry, because somehow the industry really, in spite of providing shelter, providing homes, had a very bad reputation. So the journey towards association work in terms of Maharashtra Chamber of Housing Industry, the creation of CREDAI, the working with Mr. Ram Jethmalani to create NAREDCO, along with DLF and other people, leaders who were there. So we created NAREDCO. At that time, I was Director HUDCO and advisor to Government of India in terms, created the first national housing policy for India. So over a period of time, it was always there in the back of my mind that medicine and other things had got credibility, and the doctors had a reputation for doing work, and people looked up to them and respected them. I was only praying and hoping that the building industry should get respect. How can if the industry doesn't get respect, Niranjan Hiranandani being part of real estate cannot get respect. So the whole objective was individually for myself, of course, for the work that I did with interaction with people, we should have respect at the end of the day. We may make less money or more money, or lots of money or no money, but at least the respect and everything should be there for the building industry and myself. Fortunately for me, with NAREDCO and other people, the whole industry has completely changed over the last 35 years. And I think over a period of time, we have brought about great credibility. So number one, Shishir, that the objective right from day one was, can I remain to create great credibility. And of course, I learned the profession the hard way. There was no way wherein somebody could teach you how to do real estate, and there was no way by which you could learn from it, because there were more bad examples than good examples in the industry at that point of time. Quite different than what it is today. Today, we have so many good people that were there. Of course, there were isolated examples of wonderful people. Dr. Maker, for example, Dr. Maker's father, Maker, who made the Nariman Point buildings. You saw that the Maker buildings were always a class apart from the other buildings which were made. And I always flagged it off. Why is it that those buildings are a class apart? For example, when he made those buildings, in whichever year he made, the other builders sold for 135 rupees a square foot. And he sold at 175 rupees a square foot. At that time, 40 rupees difference in those days. I don't remember the year, but I remembered and I was shocked. I said, how can it be so much difference in price? Because it's at the same location, the same plots given by the government of Maharashtra, and still the difference in prices. And I realized that over a period of time, though initially you may not get the credibility, over a period of time, if you continue to do good work, you will improve your credibility, and so will the industry. And I have to thank all my colleagues in the industry, members in NAREDCO, the office bearers, all the people, Rajan, Ashok Monani, Tara, Satish, so many people who are here, all have created and helped us to really take the credibility of the industry to the next level.
Thanks, Niranjan Bhai. That's great. And I think with an inspiration that you had, I think mentoring, if I can use that word, by a father in terms of the value systems, which was most important that you had. And I think you've done a yeoman's job. I remember you're absolutely right. What the industry suffered in reputation 30, 35 years ago to today being counted as a professional organization or professional industry is a huge difference, where professionals today are wanting to come in. All financial funds, PEs, etc. from the international world are willing to come to India, is perhaps because of this huge change that has taken place in the understanding and perception of the Indian real estate industry. Just if I can ask a lead-on question, Niranjan Bhai, when you started 35, 40 years ago, and you were getting into real estate, perhaps after a failure in the, not a failure, sorry, but in the textile, but in the movement to, you took a huge punt. I mean, you built up a holistic development of a magnitude that has, very rarely been seen. And you built a mixed-use development, which is today counted as one of the top developments in India or internationally, the Hiranandani township. Truly a masterpiece that has stood the test of time. What made you take that risk almost 40 years ago? And what has your learnings been from it?
Shishir, the story, there is a story to that. Before that, in 1981, I took up 11 plots in Lokhandwala complex. I bought them one at a time. And from Mr. Valawalkar, this Valawalkar, whom we know now, his father. And I kept on making nice buildings as compared to other people. But whenever I completed the building and I went in the balcony of one of the flats and looked out of the building, it was horrible. Because my buildings were very nice, but around me, there were no good roads, there was no water supply, there were no street lights, there were no stormwater drains, there was no sewage system in that area, though on main Versova Road, there was a sewage system. And I realized that infrastructure is really terrible over there in spite of making a nice building. So I made an association called the Samar Developers Association of all the developers. Mr. Valawalkar, Mr. Lokhandwala was the president. Mr. Valawalkar, the owner of the land, was the chairman. I was the secretary, first secretary. And I got together a plan to make the infrastructure of that area and do it. But after spending 4 rupees a square foot, which benefited Mr. Lokhandwala the most, because he had the largest number of plots over there, they were all reluctant to invest into even 4 rupees for developing all the infrastructure that we develop, which means roads, sewerage, water supply, street lights, asphalting of roads, bringing the sewerage line from the main Versova Road right up to the complex. And it was a horrible task. And I used to sit outside the offices of other developers, begging of them to contribute that 4 rupees. And I couldn't, because there were 250 plots and I was developing at that time maybe 5 or 6 plots. So I couldn't afford the entire cost. But I realized one thing, that people were not ready at that time to contribute for infrastructure development of the areas. And I wanted to build some place where if you looked out of the building, you would get to see something which is developed by me. And I needed a larger piece of land or a bigger canvas to work upon. And obviously that I couldn't afford something in Andheri or that side like the other builders did, the bigger builders of those days did. And so I reached out to a land which was far away, which was relatively cheap, which nobody wanted. The landlords used to beg of Mr. Raheja, beg of Mr. Maker, beg of other developers to sell that land to them. And it had a lot of complicated problems also. But I liked the plot because I realized that it was in the future location where the city would grow to, but also the fact that being a large canvas, I would be able to do everything myself. And it was an aspiration goal. And, I leaped into the guard simply because I was disgusted with the fact that the city doesn't want to create good infrastructure around it. You're very happy to look after your own building and make a beautiful building. But are you ready to contribute to around your circumstances, around your building in terms of it, yes or no? The answer was at that point of time, nobody was. So I leaped into the dark in Powai. I don't know how I did it. I actually did not tell the whole truth to my family that I bought such a big plot. I just told them it was a large plot and I had paid X amount of money, which was down payment, which was 1/4% of the value of the plot when I actually did it. So I didn't tell them what the total cost of the plot was, because I know that nobody would have agreed with me. And everybody told me within the family and my architects and everyone that, this is going to be your doomsday when you have gone to Powai. But anyway, the truth is it's something different, but at least it met my aspiration that everything around the buildings and everything is our own building. So you look out of the balcony of one of the buildings, you see my other building. So you kind of will get a good view because it's your building, your garden, your school, your hospital or so.
I think now we come right down to the next point, which what is it that differentiates you? And if you ask me, one of the things that you did there has stood out for decades, and that is the timelessness of design. And I think that's when you go there, you still, even today, perhaps 35, 40 years since then, it transports you to a different world. And that's something that's perhaps marked you different from everyone else, is that the emphasis on design and the emphasis on customer centricity. I think those are the two things. When I thought, and I said, perhaps my first questions that I'll ask you is, were these two the central point in your philosophy, and how important has these USPs been in all that you've gone through?
Design is very important. Aesthetics is very important. But the idea of the design came through evolution of discussions which took place. And architect Hafiz Contractor played a very big role in these discussions, which we did. And when we created this design, he was already my architect for a building called Beach Classic at Versova, which had done very well. But it was not this type of architecture. So after that building was completed, we worked together with Hafiz and looked at various concepts which we did in terms of kind of architecture that we wanted to create. Over a period of time, we realized that we didn't want to make the regular architectural work design which was done, simply because it was not, I would like to call it, it's not timeless. The design we created is timeless. So one of the buildings which I looked out my window, I remember about 2 years ago, somebody had come to Powai and he looked at the building and he said, oh, this is your new building. And I laughed because that building was constructed 20 years ago. and he still thinks it's a new building. So these buildings are timeless. And besides the quality issue, the fact is that the design we chose was such that 100 years from today, it will also be like a new building, or if you like, a classical design building which is there. And supported by good quality, we would be able to do it. The second point, Shishir, by which you mentioned, is the issue of customer centricity. I think that is most important. But in the earlier days of my career, customer to a developer was never important, simply because there was so much shortage of good construction that the customer was just taken for granted. That fortunately has changed over a period of years. And we do find that everybody talks about the customers, and without the customer focus, really, you cannot sell. It is partly due to supply, and it is also due to wrong supply in the marketplace, where people are just copying each other and trying to make a marketplace. Is because A has built a building which has got 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms, so I must make a building which is 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. But that is something which is wrong. So customer centricity certainly took a flag off in terms of what we wanted to do, and the customer centricity came from a quality of the buildings, looking after various things, and there's a whole complete story to the quality which we kind of created. My brother Surendra formed a big part of my partnership in terms of creating quality, and he spent a lot of time also with me in order to see that the quality of the buildings really came out well. It was really a fantastic journey to do whatever it is.
Fantastic. You've continued with that, Niranjan Bhai, through commercial, through residential. And then, of course, one of the things that distinguishes you again is that you also diversified, were the first to diversify into many of the other new alternate investments. Your investments into healthcare, your investments now in industrial and warehousing, data centers, retail, etc. Investments in new geographies, not only in asset classes, but whether it's a large investment in Panvel or a large investment in Alipur, are all things that distinguish you as a person. I'm sure all of the audience would love to know, how do you keep ahead of the curve? You're not obviously a follower, you're a trendsetter. What percentage of intuition is it, or is it market research or business intelligence? I mean, how does Niranjan Hiranandani operate? How do you remain ahead of the curve?
First of all, there are 3 aspects to what you said. One is to be ahead of the curve in the real estate business. The second part of it is to do those which are what I call a not-for-profit activity, like schools, colleges, hospitals, university, skill development, etc. And the third is diversification. So as far as the first is concerned, anything that one does, you should actually be on the top of things as far as possible. And you should kindly always constantly improve. So whether it's design, whether it's looking at the customer centricity, or you look at the quality of the buildings, etc., etc. We made it a point right from day one to improve all of this. I remember the fact that 30 years ago, we actually set up the first sand washing plant in India, simply because the concrete that we were mixing was coming out bad, not because the cement was not enough or the other things were not good, but the sand had a lot of silt, and we never used to get clear, good sand. And nobody wanted to wash sand in those days. Today, most of the sand suppliers have a washing and cleaning plants. But in those days, we didn't. So we set it up in order to improve the quality of sand, to improve the quality of concrete. Talking about quality of concrete, we realized that the western zone of India, because of its precipitation, required the national building code to be changed. So we provided for a higher grade of quality of concrete, because we realized those buildings which were made earlier in the 70s, they had bad quality cement, as well as the NBC code was wrong. So we represented to correct this code, which took 12 years to correct the code. But in the meantime, we had already improved the quality of concrete. Plus, we shifted to copper pipes in terms of things. We did ducting of all our roads. We created the first concrete roads in a private layout in India. We created the largest sewage recycling plant in India 30 years ago, 27 years ago, 4 million liters per day. We now recycle between Thane and Powai more recycling in any real residential project in the last 30 years than the whole city of Mumbai put together. So that's the recycling that we do, and we reuse the recycled water for gardens, flushing and others for 30 years. And so that was the real estate part of it. So we constantly improve the quality of it. We introduced the first guaranteed waterproofing of terraces in India for 10 years, and also for plumbing and other things that we did. Though that is history, and it's all over, and we do it. So that's one story, which is the real estate part, and you constantly grow and improve that. The second part was thanks to my father, actually. He introduced me that I must do a lot of work for not-for-profit. And he kindly always encouraged me. He kind of precipitated me to set up the first school in Powai, the Hiranani Foundation School. Then the second one we put in Thane, and he encouraged us to do that. He introduced me to the education system. And today I have, in the Hiranandani Foundation, we have 2 big schools, almost 7,000 students. We have, and I'm also now affiliated to 14 colleges in Mumbai, 6 schools to another trust, and which have 45,000 students in colleges. And I have a university now given to me, of which I am a head provost, given by the government of Maharashtra. And now I'm starting a school of real estate, which will be operational from next month. I'm going to send a circular to NAREDCO and to you and to all your other friends who would like to join this MBA course in real estate, and so on and so forth. So the second was, and then the hospital I built in Powai, whatever it is. So the second is not for profit. I pay my own bills in my own hospital, for example, because it's separate. It's a not-for-profit thing, doesn't come back to the family in terms of profit element whatsoever. This is to give back to society, all of it. Skill development, hospitals, schools, etc. All this is given away. So that was the second part of it. The third part of it, which you mentioned, which is the diversification thing. I encourage both my children to set up their own separate operations and learn new things. So my daughter set up Zenta at her age of 23, which from a 12-person in Saraswati Road, where I had an office, she ended up at age 27 with a 4,500 employees thing, and she sold that company call center for $100 million US in those days, being her first enterprise. And she's continuing to do various investments, and she's based in London. But I encourage that they should do something different and their own. My son, I encourage, and I'm feeling sometimes sorry that I did. He went to Dubai. I encouraged him to start in Dubai, and he built 23 Marina, which is the tallest, which at that time was the tallest residential tower in the world, 23 Marina, to which there's a short story. One day he phones me in Dubai 6 months after he was doing it, and he was doing the design of the building. And he says, Papa, and you know, when they say Papa like that, you know something is coming. And so he said, Papa, do you mind if I make my first building taller than your tallest building? So I said, but why would you ask me such a question? Because, I mean, first of all, I don't mind if anybody builds a taller building than mine. And I'm sure many people do. But if my son does it, I'll be proud of it. He said, oh, thank you very much. So I'm going to build my first building taller than yours. So I said, how tall is this building? So he said, 90-story. I said, you've gone nuts. At that time, the tallest building in the world, residential tower in the world, was 80-story building. So I said, but why do you want to build a 90-story building? He said, because nobody's built it before. And he built it. And a person, none other than Mr. Narendra Modi, once asked me that your son who has built that tallest building, was he able to complete it because there was a recession after that? Fortunately, he could complete it, and he made a small profit and bought me a helicopter to which there's another story that somebody asked him, your father can't afford a helicopter. Why did you have to buy a helicopter for your father? So he said, my father can afford 2 helicopters, but he doesn't have the guts to buy even one. So I have to buy it for him. So he said, he bought me a helicopter, and so on and so on. Then he is the one who has taken the diversification into data centers, into gas and pipelines and other things, all of which have now flowering into something very large and beautiful. So there are different aspects of it. One is the real estate and the parent. The second is my not-for-profit organizations, which I run, and I grow them every day. And there's a story for each one of them. And the third, of course, is the issue of diversification, which I expect that my children will take the leadership. I only help them when they are in need, but they actually run those businesses.
We're going to get down to the topics of many of your things that you mentioned on education establishments and all as we move along. But one of the points that you did mention, that when you first came in, one of the things that struck you was that at that point of time, the real estate business was known for the industries were the Haji Mastans and everything else. And there was obviously a reputational and a credibility issue. At that time, most of the developer fraternity were family-owned, Niranjan Bhai, and which really ran the risk of becoming a personality-driven enterprises. Within this, you are one of the first who built an extremely successful professional setup within your system. I know most of them, so I can say with definite knowledge that most of your core team have remained in place today for more than 3 decades. Your attrition rates are perhaps one of the lowest in the industry. I'm sure the audience would love to know, how have you built a professional organization in a sector which is known for a personal developer fraternity, and how have you kept your team intact for so long?
Shishir, I don't know how they have remained with me for so long, to be honest with you. But we treat them as family. Can you imagine working with me? All my top 5 heads have been with me on an average for 30 years plus, working with me. Maybe I'm too soft. I don't know. But they have delivered, and they are good people, and they have all the integrity that you can possibly have. And they're also learning every day. So that's a good part of it. They may not be the best in the country or in the world, but they certainly work very hard in order to see that they deliver the best. So in spite of being average people, most of the people who I picked up at that time were average people, but somehow have surpassed themselves to become very good professional people by working very hard. And I think one of the things they do associate and feel good about is being with the family. So it's a family business, as you said correctly, and they all feel for the company and believe that the company actually is them. It's not a family-owned company as far as they are concerned. As I attended the daughter wedding of one of my staff a couple of months ago, and I visited there. And he said, I came as nobody, and today I'm king. And and he was saying, and I was in the audience, and I felt so good that even my staffer at his daughter's wedding talks about his position in the company as king. And it really made me feel very good about the whole thing, that people took ownership of the whole thing. So I think if you give positive vibes about supporting people and good people, and if you have the integrity of the persons, you can make superior people out of ordinary people. And I do believe that. So you don't need an extraordinary, super intelligent person to actually do very well. You need good people who will work hard and committed to do things which will make a good organization. So sometimes the very best may not be necessarily the best for you, but even the second best or the third best who are there, but they are committed and aligned to you, and you make them feel like a family. I think there is a possibility of doing it. But obviously, it doesn't really matter how you run the organizations or do it. I think what you said about the other part of it, that if it's a consumer-centric organization, which really focuses on the product, which has to be superior, as well as you're committed to the consumers, I think it's a very important thing. So it doesn't matter if it's family-owned or it's professional. It doesn't matter if it's in any other format, what it is done. I think it needs a kind of a passion and a commitment and a kind of a feeling of ownership of whatever it is. I think I agree.
And I'm sure that having a professional setup like this has also then released you and given you time to do so much. Because I'll get back to that question a little later of the enormity of what you do. But I suppose a professional organization then helps you to do many other things in life other than, and perhaps professionally execute your thoughts and vision.
Yes, that's very correct. You can actually quadruple the kind of work that you can do if you have good people with you, committed people to you who actually professionally manage a lot of work for you, and you give them a lot of powers independently to act and complete lots of work. And many times decision making is not taken by Niranjan Hiranandani, though people do believe that it's taken by me. Many of the decisions are taken one step down, two steps down, three steps down. And we kind of honor it. People do make mistakes, but we kind of support them if they are done genuinely and bona fidely.
And I think once the thought processes are aligned and integrity is there, which is fundamentally core to your thinking, I think you're good position to give them the responsibility and the accountability.
Yes.
Niranjan Baijal, I want to ask you a question that you just raised, and you said you'll be opening and talking about the educational institutions that you run. And one of the key ones that you are just getting into is the Hiranani real estate, institutional real estate. What is your vision for that? Because there it's all of us will be interested, because after 40, 45 years in the industry, you are now setting up a really school which is going to give an MBA in real estate. And I suppose it'll be a market, a great development for the industry itself, that here you have a professional institute, getting into this. What was your thinking behind setting up this institute?
Two things. Number one, that a lot of people, first of all, the time is now. So the time has come where such an institutions don't exist in a broad fashion. And I think the time is now where we need to set up institutions like this, and that is why we have set it up. But having said that, there's a little background to it. If I wanted some person good in marketing, there is no school of marketing which focuses on real estate. There are a lot of people who would focus on various marketing, like fast-moving FMCG goods. So you'll have marketing with emphasis on consumer goods, or you'll have advertising, publicity, focusing on various other generalized products. But there is no school which says accounting, taxation, economics, finance, working, project management, the whole gamut, HR relating to real estate, all that, if you want to package it and say that a young person is 25 years old and comes out into the real estate industry, and if he has to get the complete domain knowledge when he's out of that industry, there is no education which is available today which would teach that. And I'm talking about the cutting edge. You may be getting small certificate courses here and there, but nothing of excellence of the cutting edge. So I've been persuaded by a friend of mine that I should start this about 2 years or 3 years ago. Now I've got a separate university myself, of which I'm a provost. So I'm entitled to start it without referring anybody. I being the university, I can do it. So I don't need permission from anybody to start these courses. So we decided that we'll start an MBA in real estate. From June onwards, we have already opened the thing for people to apply, and applications have started. I've just got 12 applications, though we have opened only 4 days ago. We've got 12 confirmed applications which are there. We're looking at a class of 60. So I'm sure we'll be able to get that many. If not, if we get less or more, it doesn't matter. But we're looking at a class of 60 at the most. But the idea is that the person who comes out doesn't have to be taught the domain knowledge of that industry. So he should know RERA, he should know all the Transfer of Property Act, he should know Contract Act relating to real estate, all that on the legal side. He should know how the marketing is done. He should know what is industry, to take these boys, girls as interns in order to train them so that they would be able to also learn in industry, and then of course give them jobs and other things if they find them fit and smart.
I think this will be a, sorry, I think I'm losing you.
Hello, I'm sorry, I think my signal went off.
Yeah, so I can hear you now, sir. I lost you in the middle.
Yeah. So basically, the idea basically being that you have somebody who gets domain knowledge in every aspect of real estate, obviously in a manner which will not make him a professional finance expert, but he will have enough knowledge in order to get adequate finance and distinct background which he'll have. He'll know how to do project management, he'll know how to buy land, he'll know how to sell land, he'll be able to do this, he'll get the economics of the real estate industry, plus internships, which will do. So the idea basically is get young people, professional, into the line at a very early age with a complete domain knowledge that you do in order to get these people. I mean, I wish I had people like that available to me maybe 35 years ago. It'd be very useful. So it'd be very good for the industry over a period of time to get more people into the industry. And now the need is more. There are a large number of developers, there are a large number of finance institutions. I've already talked to a couple of financing institutions, and they've said, oh my God, please send them, at least send the trainees, and out of them we'll choose who's the best, and then maybe recruit them also and give them offers at the end of the day. So MBA in real estate.
Can see your passion in it, and I think it'll be, to my mind, I think it'll be great for the industry, and I think all of us will remember this year when this started, because as the batches and the students come out, I think it'll make a huge difference to all of us in the industry who are looking for great youngsters and people to come over.
Yeah, funny part of it, we got a lot of people who are lawyers who have applied, civil engineers have applied, chartered accountants who have applied. So we're finding a lot of young people who are already qualified in other lines of profession, wanting to get into this to do that. So it's a very mixed bag of people who are joining or planning to apply.
I think that will be the magic of it when it's mixed and there's a combination of talents. We are all looking forward to that and to participate in it. Niranjan, by just coming down to the current issues, I mean, current state that we are in, I don't think we can ignore the fact that today we are in the midst of a pandemic such as never been seen before. But having said that, over the last 35, 40 years of your business, you've seen enough cycles. I mean, then all of us know that the graph doesn't go up and there's always a up-down movement. You've seen various wars and you've seen cycles, you've seen the global financial crisis, and then you've seen the pandemic in the last 18 months. How is this different from the other crises or the other times that you've seen such movements? How is this pandemic, which has affected the entire world, different from the ones that we had seen perhaps in 2008 as the latest memory?
Several differences. First of all, most of the cycles which I have seen over the last so many years have been 4 or 5 year cycles, longer period. The entire up and down would not extend more than 4 years or 5 years. This cycle has been a downward turn for a long period of time. Right from demonetization and continuing this down cycle, there's been a pretty long down cycle, which means that it has affected not only the small developers, but many large developers also. You have the unfortunate story of companies like Unitech in Delhi, where I've been appointed by the Supreme Court on the board of directors to resuscitate, where 35,000 apartments have been sold but not delivered. Now, it's a horrible story as far as that is concerned under these circumstances. Take the case of Mr. Kulkarni's thing in Pune, the very large, good developer, leading reputed developer over there who has really sunk. So I don't think that I've seen a negative of such a long period which has affected larger players, smaller players, and bigger players. And at the same time, I've seen a set of builders who have consolidated and grown. Mr. Rajiv Talva is here. DLF has done so well in spite of everything. Companies like Mr. Raheja, Chandru Raheja's group, Ravi and Neil have done superbly by doing innovative ideas and set up a REIT and stuff like that. Professional companies like Godrej is grown. Tata Housing is again reset completely. All these things are happening. So this time, in spite of the fact of such a deep recession which took place, followed by RERA, followed by GST, followed by insolvency code, followed by this part, and then now the downside. So this has been a much deeper and longer cycle. And those who will come out of this cycle successfully will certainly rule the roost for a long period of time. But we had changed. And if you don't learn to change quickly according to what the market needs are, and the future is, of course, going to be very, very different than what the past was. So the point is, are we ready for the change? A. B, are we ready to become customer-centric as differentiated from being product-centric as we were yesterday? And are we really going to be holistic and think about it to see that it's not just one aspect of customer dealing that we are doing, but the entirety of the operation is there. Again, many companies are doing a wonderful job. So there is going to be good, bad, and ugly in every segment of it. But a lot of people have been burnt in terms of this period. And we do hope that they come out of it. 6 months between September last year and March saw a little better period for real estate, with the Maharashtra government reducing stamp duties, some other things happening positively. And all over the country, there were some green shoots which came up and done it. The second wave, of course, has hit us again badly. Hopefully, third wave will not hit us as bad because of vaccination. But all in all, we must say that the story is not going to be as easy in the future as past, because let's say, give me one example. We were working out a budget for a project which otherwise would have required, say, 50 crores of investment in a project. Today, that same project, because of RERA, the requiring of escrow, etc., the same project requires an investment of 150 crores. And also the postponement, you don't get the full sales to be taking place during construction period. So your provision for making funds availability is gone up, and nobody is planning for that adequately enough. Nobody is planning for that adequately enough. So that's a challenge, which I feel. And we will all have to adopt to these new things, otherwise we will suffer. So we'll have to, adopt to the new situation and then work our way to the whole thing. But if you work with the new situation, then I think growth will again come back to India. I'm sure we'll be able to cross it and 2 miles away.
The elephant in the room, Niranjan Bhai, is this whole concept of work from homes, change the way we live. Today, you and me all sitting in various parts, sitting from home. And this is today now started leading to everyone building larger and newer and larger homes to accommodate the work from home. Because India, other than other countries, was not attuned to work from home in terms of spaces and all. But work from home is not a long-term concept. I mean, my personal belief, and I leave it to you. I think, all of us is a social organization. All of us are social. We'll all get back to the office the moment we're allowed to. Is this trend going to continue towards new homes, larger homes, etc.? Or do you think one must be careful to understand that this is a phenomena that perhaps will, once the third wave gets down and we all get vaccinated, perhaps we'll revert back to the old one? And one just additional point that you mentioned about the Maharashtra government, how important is demand stimulation by government? How important is the fact that people like yourself, etc., must ensure that there is enough demand stimulants that can propel the industry out of the issues that it is facing today?
Yeah. So the first part of your question, which is work from home, is a reality which will happen. in the sense that to some extent it's going to happen. I've talked to two different financial institutions, and one of them has said that our work from home is definitely the future. We have done fantastically well by working from home, so we are going to do much more work from home. Our requirements in terms of office space is going to be much, much lower than what it ever was, and we will continue to do it. And I've got another person who's also in the similar business and said, nothing doing. We are going to go full hog in terms of opening more and more spaces, though we don't need larger, more spaces, but we're going to do 200 new places which we want to open up and all that. Then we have the IT companies as an aside, where an IT company announced that we will have 75% work from home for 3 years from today as a perpetuity. The same company as today announced that it will be 25% work from home, as distinguished from 75% of it, because it doesn't work completely to the extent to which it is. So the change is definitely happening. So don't think this change is not happening, or it will revert 100% back. It is going to partially revert back, but it will not wholly revert back. So we are going to see some of the reversion taking place, but partly people will learn things. The second part, which is more interesting, what is the extent to which this will happen, and to how many extent are we to make larger houses as compared to smaller houses because of the staying of work from home? That is going to be a good story, and we will have to do a proper assessment. Otherwise, everybody will make bigger houses and they will all remain unsold at the end of 5 years. So that's another story. So people have to assess how many larger apartments can be affordable by people and how many are going to take it into that position now. There's a third part of it, which is the pain of working from home has not been told. There are people who are crying, husband, wife, 2 children, all at home, 2 story from work from home for schools, college, work from home for husband and wife. They've got 1.5 bedrooms. It's not working for them. It's a horrible story. They just want to get back to the situation which is normal. While on the other hand, I know there are people who are saying, wow, what wonderful, I'm at Alibag, I'm not going to come back home at all. And there are senior councils who are in Goa, who are in Alibag, and 2 of them are in London, who are going to work from there, and they're very happy, and they're hoping that the courts don't revert to the physical court that is possible. So the answer is, change is imperative. This is never going to go back 100%, but how much will go back and how much will not, time will tell, and we have to constantly monitor that before we change all our product position to work from home and do that. So both sides are going to see a change. How much and where, I cannot tell you. Nobody can tell. Time will tell.
I think there's a fantastic
there is a second part
on the demand stimulation.
Yeah, you talked about demand stimulation. The situation is such that the people don't want to spend money. They're petrified. They don't know when they're going to lose jobs, when things are going to happen, and whatnot. So till that situation takes place, the demand will not happen. Intermediary, the state government, by reducing the stamp duty by 3% from 5 to 2, really excited a lot of people who were stuck with their homes and who thought upgrades could be reasonable. It was not that builders were not ready to absorb the full stamp duty. They could have done it even otherwise. And they are doing it even otherwise. But since it was a holistic thing, a lot of people talked about it, and the whole situation and market got hyper. The customers got hyper. And fortunately, when they went to upgrade their houses from 1 bedroom to 2, or 2 from 2.5, and 2.5 to 3, they were able to sell their old flats also, because somebody else was also coming wanting their flat. So this cycle helped everybody, and which has taken place. So demand stimulation definitely is required. It's going to be very helpful. Vaccination is going to be helpful. That's another demand stimulation once people are able to get back to the normal situation. And of course, the economy on certain sides have already done very well, like steel, cement, and other things, and infrastructure and other things is doing extremely well. But do need another stimulus in order to make it back to normal.
Thanks, Niranjan bhai. We're getting to the end of our time, so I'm going to get a little personal here. What do I know of you for the last 20 odd years? We all know you to be somebody who's busy from the crack of dawn, yet you find time for so many things, your family, your grandchildren, your personal fitness. Somebody spoke in the introduction about you participating in the marathon, time for industry bodies like ASSOCHAM, NAREDCO, etc. How do you manage to fit them all in 24 hours, Niranjan bhai? What is the secret to this?
I don't know, but honestly, I love everything that I do. So, I love my grandchildren, but I also love my buildings. I love my working with NAREDCO. I love to do policy with the government of India. I love to work with education. I speak to students at least once a week, minimum. To students, I give lectures all over. I do TED Talks. I speak in the institution, and it's a very satisfying process. So it's basically, I love to do what I do. So, many times people say, I'm going to work. There is no such thing. I am excited to go to work and build a building and create a drawing or create something new. I love to go to educational institutions. So for me, it's really trying to do the maximum thing that I can possibly do. So I don't want to drop off anything. I had actually, to tell you, Shishir, honestly, at age 60, I'm now 71 and a half, I decided that I will give up my business of real estate and all businesses and concentrate only on the not-for-profit activity and give it to my brother, their children, my children, and all of them, and they would do all the real estate and business that is done. My daughter is in London, my son is in Dubai, he wants to do new businesses. So they all said, I said, but I've done these business for you. And they said, who told you to do so much? So I said, okay, then I'll look after it myself, because anyway, I love doing it. So it's not that I don't like to do it, so I'm giving it away. It was only the question that, should I do more in education? Do I do more for hospitals? Like we're going to start heart transplant in our hospitals. We have put up the ECMO machine, which is a heart-lung machine, which we are just coming in the next month, which has already come, sorry. We have increased the beds for ICU. We are starting new things in the hospital. So while I was having COVID in the hospital, we did all these new things, which is heart transplant, ECMO machine, more ICU beds. And of course, now we are doing the mono cocktail for treating COVID patients. So I can make you as a COVID patient all right in 2 days. Instead of 15 days, which was there before. Come to my hospital, and in 3 days, you'll be back home with no COVID.
Niranjan bhai, you mentioned just now that you thought 10 years ago that you might like to hang up your boots and focus on non-profit organizations. If and when you do, and I can't imagine that. I mean, seriously, what do I know of you? I can't imagine that. But if you do, what is the legacy you want to leave behind when you ever do retire? What do you want to be remembered by?
I want the fond memories that he was a good person, and he wanted to do good in everything that he did. He loved everybody, and because he loved everybody, he wanted to do all these things for people. And because you don't take away anything from what you have. So having done so much for everybody is Niranjan Hiranandani, that he did all this, and he loved each and everything that he did. He loved each and every one that he dealt with, and he just wanted to do all the time. So I'd like to leave that kind of memory and all. And I remember getting very annoyed with a principal of one of my colleges when the Huron report came that I was amongst the top 10 richest real estate tycoons in India. And she made a big fanfare of it. And I got up and I was so annoyed with her. I said, I've spent 20 years in the education field, and I've never, ever allowed you to talk about my wealth and my money and the power I have because of my wealth. I want you to talk about it, that I'm good in education, that I'm good in giving to institutions, and I'm part of the education, and I'm a very good educator. So I hated it. I don't mind being rich in the real estate field because that's the real estate business part of it. But in the not-for-profit, I don't want to be held as a great guy because I've got money. That's a different ballgame completely. So if I'm going to be respected in real estate for my wealth, that's an insult to me, because that means I've not contributed to the education field, and I've contributed in terms of making money out of it. So there is a different philosophy to each aspect of my life, and I would rather have those separated in terms of doing it, because you need to give back to society adequately enough at the end of the day, because God has given me so much. But I would love to be remembered that he loved people.
Fantastic. I mean, it has been absolute. I mean, it's really not fair that we just have an hour to speak and try to get all your thoughts regarding professional, personal, everything out during these 60 minutes. But I mean, seriously, I mean, I've really enjoyed myself, and I must congratulate you on a great journey, starting off in this industry, reaching the very top in everything that you've done, whether in the temples that you run, whether in the, not run, but in the trustees of, or the educational establishments, or the, of course, what you're known for, the real estate. Congratulations on a great journey, Niranjan Bhai. Would you like to say any concluding remarks, perhaps, because I may not have done justice to you in many of the aspects. I may have missed some parts of your life. If you'd like to just have a freewheeling few minutes, if you'd like to say something.
No, I've honestly been as frank and honest as possible, and as truthful as I could be, and share with you any stories which I thought would be useful for people who are younger to understand how life can be different in terms of aspirations of goals. And that I also had failures, that Niranjan Hiranandani has also failed, and he got up and stood back again and kept on working on it. I've had lots and lots of problems in my life, and many of them have come in the newspapers and reports like that. But I mean, at the end of the day, the overall balance sheet of life is much better. You didn't ask me about the kind of setbacks and problems and stuff that I had. I had many, and but that doesn't matter, as long as you look at your goals and your aspirations and stuff like that, and the love and happiness that you get with people whom you are with. And that, I think, is extremely important, that the part of it. You can't make everybody happy. I can't make my wife happy after 45 years. So how can I make other people happy? But the fact is that they should at least say that Niranjan is a good guy and I'm a good husband, by and large, and all that. I may have my policies, I may have my faults, I may have my mistakes, I may have done things wrong, I may have hurt people, I may not have lived up to people's expectations, and that's okay with me, because you can't live up to anybody's expectations if I can't live up to my wife's expectations. So it's okay as far as that is concerned. But they shouldn't fault me that I didn't try, I didn't work on it, I didn't really exert. So I'm very happy that I can do all these different things which I can do in my life, and it makes my life feel complete.
Thank you so much, Niranjan Bhai. Fantastic. It's been great speaking to you. I'm sure the number of people would like to ask you some questions, and I would like to hand over to Vishal Thakkar to take over from here. Thank you so much, Niranjan Bhai. It's been a pleasure as always. Thank you.
Thank you, Shishir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shishir sir, for this wonderful session, taking it in a very smooth way. And I would like to thank Niranjan sir for giving us such an inspirational and motivational, the insight of it. I would now ask Mr. Rajiv Talwar to give some to speak on some important points of this, some takeaway from this.
There's only one takeaway. It's a life so well described. I think I must thank not only Niranjan Bhai, but also Mr. Shishir Baijal, that we all have got the first reading of a book by his own words and in his own words and by his own mouth. This is this entire session. And I must say that the two of you have gelled so well. I think Mr. Shishir Baijal has given you adequate time. You've not held back any comma, full stop, any feeling. You've covered everything in it. It's been a great read. In fact, this is something which no one who has not checked in into this session will ever get. And I feel that this should be put on YouTube. It should be made into a book. This is the live Kindle that we have read right now. And from the words of the author himself, who's lived it, you cannot get it better. It's a great inspiration, Niranjanji, that I think everyone who is of this world would love to have a book like this. Undoubtedly, you've got a bestseller on your hands because you can add many chapters to it. And with Mr. Baijal doing a little bit of editing here and there, we need somebody who can do justice to your life and what you really achieved in your life. As you very rightly said, God has given you lots and lots. We are all extremely grateful that He gave it to a wonderful person like you and a wonderful family. We know them. We actually cherish everyone, whether it's Zoya, whether it's Jahan, right down to them, that it's been a great journey traveling with you for the last few years, hearing you. But this has been the cherry on the cake. This is a book which we have all read, seen, and heard from your own mouth. I think you're a very big giant right away. And I'm so glad that somebody thought of this. And NAREDCO, we were lucky to be a part of that. Grateful to you. Keep on running, keep on working. You have the zeal and the enthusiasm to work. And may we all learn that if the real estate world has to become the new real estate world of India, yes, people like you will lead it. And I'm sure many others will blossom under your care and under your work. Thank you so much. We're grateful to everyone who has attended this. That for the first time, I think anyone has heard a book being written by the author in his own words and while he's speaking live. Thank you so much. Thank you, Mr. Baijal, and of course, thank you, Niranjan Bhai, and thank you everyone who attended.
Thank you, Rajiv. It's so sweet of you. You know, I've learned so much from you also. The way you interact with people, our interactions with you have been so wonderful. And really, it's been a pleasure and privilege, both on the family side, which you interact with, and also at NAREDCO with your leadership. And there, I have also learned a lot from you too. I must tell you, and thank you so much for your very, very, very generous words. And thank you. And I agree, Shishir has brought out a lot of positive elements of my life. And thank you, Shishir, for that also.
Pleasure, sir. It's always, as I said, it's an inspiration to be with you, sir. Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, Rajiv sir, for your great words. I would now like to ask Tara ma'am to throw some light on this. Tara ma'am?
Yes. What can I throw light on Niranjan Hiranandani? I have known him when both of us had a shock of black hair all over. I was half my size, new to real estate. I met Niranjan, and I think over a period of last 40 years, 35 years, we've not only worked together for many projects, but I think whenever I have a go-to person, it is always Niranjan. I have been fortunate to work with two fantastic companies, and I have invested in relationship. Another person I know who's invested in relationship is Niranjan. I have to share one thing very personal. I remember my daughter's wedding. The reception was from 7 o'clock onward, being a working day, and it was going to be winding up at about 11. And who do you think walks in? Niranjan Hiranandani. And he said, Tara, I'm so sorry. I'm just coming back from Delhi, but I could not have missed your daughter's wedding. He must have been dog tired, but still made it a point to come be with me on such a momentous occasion for me and my family. Blessed my daughter. And this, I have to tell Niranjan, I know you're not going to like it, but I have to share this. Because of my working in HDFC, I had made it very clear that I will not accept any gifts from any developer for my daughter's wedding. And Niranjan, being Niranjan, he did a very smart thing. Now, fortunately for me, one of my pupils in HDFC was Priya. I was Priya's first boss. So what he did is he sent me, my daughter, a gift from Priya Hiranani. Now, obviously, I couldn't say no to her because for me, she's not a developer. And then a couple of years later, when I met Priya, I asked her and I said, "Why did you send it?" She was blank. She said, "I don't know what you're talking about." Then I knew this was Niranjan's way of, doing what he had to. Another thing that I have to share with you guys, which I think I said it a couple of years ago. I remember once when Niranjan came down to my, he's a guy who really gave me sleepless nights. He came down to my table in HDFC and said, "Tara, do you have a stamp paper?" Those days we used to keep stamp papers, which had a validity for about 3 months or 6 months. I said, "Yes." He said, "Give it to me." And he just signed on it. It was a blank stamp paper, signed on it and went away. And I said, "What am I supposed to do?" He said, "Oh, Deepak will tell you." Deepak me, Deepak Parekh. So I called up Deepak Parekh and I said, "So what is it?" He said, "I'll explain it to you. You just keep it in your cabinet and just make sure that it is safe." Believe you me, guys, every morning I should get up, open my drawer, see that the stamp paper is there, night again see the stamp paper is there, lock it up and go. Because it was a blank signed document by Niranjan Hiranandani. I mean, anything could have been typed on it. But I tell you, the kind of trust that he had on me, I think I really need to be. I was felt very small, and I said, "Wow, this man really trusts me." But yes, he's taught me a lot in life. And one thing, Niranjan, I have to tell you, you kept telling that you've been a failure where your textile and the other mills are concerned. I think that's a wrong word that you've used. I think you were unsuccessful. Failure is when you don't, when you fall and you don't climb up again. That is failure. So you were just unsuccessful in those two counts. And yes, thank you, Niranjan. And I'm really looking forward to your complete support where Mahi is concerned. Time and again, I'm going to bother you. I know you're going to be there for us, but please, please keep your umbrella on us. Thank you.
Okay, I want to say only one thing to Tara. And I've said that once before. So this is the only second time I'm saying after 30 years that thank you, Tara. She was my daughter interned under her. And she turned out to be one of the finest businesswomen who can be. And Tara, thank you very much for training her so well in terms of her future, that she is what she is, partly because of what you contributed as mentor to her life. My daughter Priya is whom she's talking about. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Tara.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tara ma'am, for this wonderful words. And you rightly said, it's not a failure, it's something unsuccessful thing. And very well said, very well, right, crisp point. I would now like Rajan sir to, take this over and then take it ahead for this. Rajan sir?
Yeah, Niranjan sir, you became failure in textile, so we needed you because we wanted some Amitabh Bachchan who can walk and make path for us. So everybody, we can easily walk on the same path because we knew that you have walked on a path and it's a success path. So for us, it was a cakewalk. And as Tara ma'am told it in a different way, but I tell you, the second aspect of Niranjan is delegation, which I have learned, and we think each and every one of us should learn to delegate. Because once he delegates any work to anyone, then he only asks whether it is completed or not completed, and if the person goes back and ask him is there a problem or something. Otherwise, he never asks or anything. Once he is delegated, the matter is end and over for him because he is on to his next job. Shishir Baijal, of course, thank you very much, sir. Everybody knows Knight Frank and the way Knight Frank has helped in real estate industry because it's one of the big guys who have come here and given a good reputation to the real estate industry. As Niranjan sir told, it was days of Haji Mustan and Yusuf Patel. I don't want to mention whom I told. I told one senior person because I was into some problem. So I used my trick there. I told in real estate industry, there is only Haji Mustan, Yusuf Patel, then Kukreja, and Bafnas and everyone. There is no Maharashtrian guy. So I escaped him through telling that I am the Maharashtrian guy who is into real estate industry. So those days, real estate industry was tabooed in a very, very negative way. So Niranjan has really worked very hard, and majority of the people here in NAREDCO may not be knowing when Niranjan took over as NAREDCO president, he didn't sleep for at least a 1 week, whole night, because all the newspaper were writing as headlines, especially in Times of India, they have written it that there is a vertical split in real estate body, because all the newspaper wants to take out masala out of it. But I want to thank them because of that, Niranjan also took it as a challenge, and we all took it as a challenge, and we worked hard, and we know where today NAREDCO stands. Rajiv Talwar, of course, sir, NAREDCO is come up to this level. The credit goes to you also, and more than you. I will not give much more credit from a DLF point of it. Your ex-IAS lobby, which made us open the doors initially to every secretary, every minister, because I know Hardeep Singh Puri, each and every time he keeps on telling that Raju Talwar was his student. And he knew that, and that's why that proximity gave us a opening of door. Anil Suri, Satish Kumar, Prem Kumar, and of course, the new entrant to our team, Tara ma'am, and Kamlesh Thakur, Shrikant Sitole, Rajesh Doshi, Ashok Monani, each and everyone, thank you very much, because I think this session was one of the longest session. It was almost nearing 2 hours. 1 hour 50 minutes is over. Or I think people don't want this session to end. People want to keep listening only. But I think as we say कि लोगों को दोपहर होती है तो भूख भी लगती है. So it's a lunch time for each and everyone. So thank you very much. Thank you Niranjan sir. Thank you Shishir sir. And thank you each and everyone.
Thank you, Rajan. You have been a fantastic person in NAREDCO and done a wonderful job. And really, because of your support, I have been able to achieve whatever I have. So thank you, you and of course the entire team which is there. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shishir sir.
Thank you.